وأجورنا وأجوركم. أصابنا بإمام الحسين عليه السلام، ورزقنا الله وإياكم من الطالبين بثأره بين يدي الإمام المنصور مهدي من آل محمد. After the killing of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, after the killing of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, Umar ibn Sa'ad's soldiers immediately moved on and attacked his camp immediately. Suddenly, these soldiers had become warriors because now they don't have an Abbas to fight against. They have no Hussein to fight against. They looted everything in the tents and started crying out, "Uhraqu buyut al-zalimin." Set fire to the households of these transgressors and troubledoers. They set the whole camp on fire. One of the things to remember, brothers and sisters, on the day of Ashura, why were those children and women so thirsty? There was a ditch dug a couple of days before Ashura by Imam al-Hussein and some of the companions. And on the morning of the 10th of Muḥarram, Imam al-Hussein ordered that there be multiple fires lit within it. The benefit of this was that none of the enemies could come from around. But the downfall of this is that the water was being up more and more so that the kids could be kept and quenched. One of the reports says that the bags of water had a little bit of moisture left, and they were making the sand of Karbala a little bit cooler here or there, and that these young kids were starting to bring up their shirts and lie down on the plains of Karbala. Their mothers and Sayyidah Zainab couldn't tell if they're dying from thirst or if they're trying to alleviate some of the heat from Karbala. This fire did not help, it hurt afterwards. The murderers attacked the Prophet's grandchildren and Fatima's daughters so that they could start robbing them. Abu Hamza Thumali narrates once that he came to Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, and he saw him crying over the tragedy of his father, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Abu Hamza Thumali says to him, Yabna Rasulillah. He's trying to console him. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored the Ahlul Bayt with Shahada. Your father has joined his other Shaheed relatives, his father Ali, his uncle Hamza, his uncle Ja'far, and now he has gone with his brother and his mother, and he is united with them all. So why is it such that even so long after Karbala, you continue to remember and cry over your father? Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam says, may Allah bless you, O Abu Hamza. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with Shahada, and it is a karama for us. But every time I look at my aunts, every time I look at my sisters, I remember them running from one tent to another, not knowing where to go. Because then these evil people entered the tents and they started setting fire to our tents and we did not know what to do. Zainab comes on such a day and she comes to the Imam of her time saying, "Oh Imam, command us, what should we do?" He says, "Alaykinna bil firar." There's nothing you can do, just run away. One time, Imam Rida alayhi salam, a poet by the name of Di'bil, comes and he recites some poetry. He says, "Mawla, do I have permission to recite poetry in honor of your grandfather Hussein alayhi salam?" He says, "Give me a minute." He orders for there to be a curtain to be set up, and he tells the woman to sit behind the curtain. He says, "Go ahead, Di'bil." In Di'bil, many of the Arabic reciters, they recite these famous lines of poetry. أفاطمة لو خلت الحسين لمجدلا فقد مات عطشان بشط فرات. Oh Fatima, if you had seen the state of your Hussein that day, how hard would you have slapped your cheek? But Di'bil's audience says that there was a line. And we asked Di'bil, what was that line that burned the heart of your Imam, Imam al-Rida alayhi salam? He says, when I recited the following line, Imam al-Hussein picked up his amama and threw it away. He said, "Wa Jadda, wa Husayna." He says that line was this: بنات زياد في القصورى وبنات الرسول صبايا. The women of Al Ziyad, they are treated like princesses in their castles. And the women of Rasulullah are taken as prisoners. Shall I tell you, brothers and sisters, how they've treated the family of Rasulullah, especially the women? Some of these women, they're 4 or 5 years old. Some of them, they're 2, 3 years old. Others, like Zainab, are 54, 55 years old. There's definitely going to be a height difference. They put harsh iron collars around their hijabs. They take away the outer abba from some of these women, and they chain one woman to another woman. One woman has to crouch down so that the younger girls can have ease, and the younger girls, they have to go on tiptoe, and they have to meet the height of the older women. And like this, they are paraded like a circus from one city to another. Over all of this, Zainab al-Kubra has been assigned by Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam that you have to take care of my women and children. And Shimr ibn Dhil-Jawshan keeps on coming and says that Umar ibn Sa'd has given us the orders that we need to kill all of the sons of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. One of the speakers gives a beautiful Farsi poetry, and I don't know Farsi, so all I can give you is the translation. He says that, look, the poetry starts off by calling Hussein the Rayhan of Rasulullah, the flower of Rasulullah. And what do you do with a flower? You water it, you take care of it. This flower of Rasulullah, they didn't give him any water. They didn't show him any care. In fact, they decided all of the rest of the garden of Imam Hussein, we need to set it on fire. And so this Shimr, he keeps on coming back. One person comes, Hamid ibn Muslim, comes to him and says, no, this person is sick. He's ill. He's on his sick bed. How dare you come and try to kill him? Are we going to start to kill people who are this ill? And Shimr walks away. He comes back a few minutes later. A couple of other soldiers who are directly under the command of Umar ibn Sa'd say, no, we won't let you. Again, he comes back until finally Umar ibn Sa'd has to give the command loudly, if anyone comes and tries to kill him. Why does he have such a strong stance? Every time Zainab comes and says something, Umar ibn Sa'd's tears come, and now he has to give a new order. What did Zainab say? She says, if you want to get to him, you have to get to me. One of these people that wanted to get to Imam Zain al-Abidin, she says, he says, oh woman, do you not see that there's such a fire around you? She says, oh man, I see the fire, but we have a sick person that I need to take care of. This same Hamid ibn Muslim comes and says, I've always seen sick people, and no one has the audacity to come and disturb a sick person. This sick person, the enemies of Allah had such jur'ah that they even went and threw him off of his bed and they burned the bed. This is how they treated Imam Zain al-Abidin. This is how they treated the women. Amongst the young girls, because there isn't really too much jewelry or loot, it's all on small bracelets and small anklets. This same Hamid ibn Muslim, he comes to one of the daughters of Imam Hussein. Some say that it is Sukaina, the daughter who's a little bit older. Ruqayya is the one who's just a little bit younger. And he sees that her clothes are on fire. She's so terrified, she says, please don't touch my earrings. I hope one of these reports, this report that I'm about to narrate to you, is not true, but it comes to us from authentic sources. It says that some of the kids, they were trampled underneath the horses. Brothers and sisters, imagine the weight of a horse. These young kids, what are they going to handle? They're crushed and they're trampled under the horses and they die like this. God knows how many of the children Muhammad lost on that day. And now it's the time for these enemies, these victors of the battle, to come and rob and take their spoils of war. But there isn't too much riches to come and take with them. So some of them are taking directly the rings off of the women. Some of them are slapping the women and they go and take their necklaces. Some of them go to the little girls and they're starting to rip off the earrings. Another one of the daughters of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam sees that the person who is taking the anklets off of her feet is crying. She says, are you with us or against us? He says, I am neither with you nor against you. So then why are you crying? Because I find myself that I'm robbing the daughters of Rasulullah. She says, so then stop doing it. Why don't you stop if you know better? He says, I fear that if I don't do it, then someone else will come and do it. When Hamid ibn Muslim comes and says to Sukaina, I don't want to rob you, I just want to put your clothes out. She asks him, are you with us or against us? He says, I have nothing to do with you or against you. I'm just one of the reporters. How can I help you? Is there anything that I can do? She says, if you can help me, then put me on the back of your horse and take me to the land of Najaf. He asks, why do you want to go to Najaf? She says, I've always heard our auntie Zainab say, we have a body and a grave in Najaf. If you go and ask him, he will help you solve your problems. I want to go and complain to him of the state of my auntie Zainab. She keeps getting slapped one time from Shimar. When Shimar throws her from one side of the tent, the other man comes and slaps her from behind. She says, I want to complain about what happened to my father and my uncle Abu Fadl Abbas. He says, forgive me, O child, but Najaf is too far. I can't take you that far. She says, then, oh man, can you take me to the river of Furat? Everybody here knows the relationship between Sukaina and her uncle Abbas. When he takes her to the Furat, she immediately goes and hugs the body of Abbas and she starts complaining, Amma Abbas, don't you see that the tents are on fire? Why don't you come and help us and defend us? We're completely defenseless. We don't know what to do. Afterwards, Umar ibn Sa'd over there, he has appointed someone. So Zainab sees that there's this strange man that as the fires are now starting to die down, Umar ibn Sa'd says, put out the fires. They don't know what to do. There is a half not burnt tent. She goes and gathers all of the women and children into the tent of Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam. And she says, is everybody here and accounted for? I need to make sure that I have the wasiyah of my brother Hussein. He told me to look after each and every single one of you. Are all of you here? Each one of them start naming each other. 2 women are missing. And at this point, she sees a strange man inside the tents. And she goes out. She's now the leader. Imam Sajjad can't do anything. So she goes and asks the man, what are you doing here? He says, Umar ibn Sa'd has appointed me to be a guardian over you. She starts crying and screaming that this morning we had Abbas to look after us. Now we have the likes of you. Go back to your tents. Allah will look after us. But, oh man, before you go, let me ask you a question. Have you seen a woman? We are still looking for her. It seems by this point she had already found Ramla. Ramla was the mother of Qasim ibn al-Hasan. She says, I know his body is bloodied, but I just want to see him one last time. He was so young. I want to bid my farewell. Tomorrow in the morning we will be taken away from Karbala. The woman who was missing was Rabab, the mother of that 6-month-old infant. He says, I do not know where she is, but I heard some loud screeching from this area. She follows his direction and she eventually finds the mother of that 6-month-old baby. She found the body of the 6-month-old, and the mothers know this next musibah that I will be able to narrate with your help. She has the baby on her chest and she's trying to comfort the baby. When Zainab goes and says, put the baby down, oh Rabab, he is now with Fatima to Zahra and his father and his uncles and with Rasulullah. She says, but Zainab, what could I do? I got the water because Zainab had said, now that you have burnt the tents of Hussein, now that you have killed Hussein, is there any chance that you can give water to the children of Hussein? Umar ibn Sa'd says, yes, it's okay, fine, go and fetch water. When they're going towards the children, one small voice. This is now the voice of Ruqayya coming to her auntie Zainab, saying, Ammata Zainab, oh auntie Zainab, now that we have the water, those of you who have daughters, the fathers in this crowd, you know how much your daughter respects you. This daughter, when she sees you're thirsty, doesn't she bring you a glass of water? Now come to Ruqayya. She says, I saw the lips of my father Hussein. Where is he so that I can go and give him some water? Zainab says, your father's his thirst has been quenched by Rasulullah. Now you don't have to worry about him. My child, go and take the water for yourself. But Sukaina still wants to go and find the body of Imam al-Hussein. So when Zainab sees Rabab with the child, the 6-month-old infant, she asks her, what are you doing here? She says, when I got the water from the enemies, I started to feel the milk come back and I realized that it's the time to feed my infant. So I had to go and find him. Maybe there's still some life in him. And maybe that if I go and caress him and I go and try to burp the baby, or if I try to go and console the baby, maybe there's still some life back. But then I saw that there's an arrow from one side of the head coming out the other side of the head, and there's no more hope. Now I'm just holding on to him because I miss him. Brothers and sisters, what more is there to narrate? Imam Sajjad has to go and look after all of these women. Zainab has to look after all of these women. There's so much to narrate and so little time. But now Zainab is back in the tents and she's trying to make sure everyone is there. She starts hearing an ajib noise from outside, as if there are some twigs or branches snapping. She doesn't want to go outside because it starts to frighten the women. She asks the infallible Imam, what is this noise that I hear? Imam Zain al-Abidin is already crying. He says, Ya Amma Zainab, these are the bones of my father Hussein being trampled under the horses of Umar ibn Sa'ad. Umar ibn Sa'ad had asked, who of you wants to go and trample over the bodies of these transgressors? But each and every single person had a family member from the tribe and from the army of Yazid saying, we will not let you go and desecrate the body of our family member. Even Ali al-Akbar, he had someone because his mother Layla had a relation to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Abbas had a relation to Shimr. Everyone had some kind of relation one way or another. Everyone except for the man whose relationships are all finished. Imam al-Hussein, where are his father and mother? They have been killed from years before. Where are his brothers Hassan and Abbas? They have been killed. There's no one left to go and look after Imam al-Hussein. So these 10 horse riders, when they narrate to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, this is the final thing I have the strength to narrate. After this, I will get off the minbar iltimas dua. What do they say to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad? They say, we want you to reward us because of how we treated Hussein. Says, tell me how you treated Hussein. They say, when Umar ibn Sa'ad asked us to go and ride over the body of Imam al-Hussein. Brothers and sisters, those of you who have gone to the shrine of Imam Hussein, where is the Maqtal area and where is the Darih of the body of Imam Hussein? Why is there such a gap? The reason that there's such a gap is because these horses, between their hooves, they kicked and threw the body so many times. They say that when Umar ibn Sa'ad told us to ride our horses, he told us change the hooves on the horses. He told us to put new hooves on the horses. He told us to sharpen the hooves of the horses. And then we went towards the body of Abu Abdullah. Oh, Shia of Abu Abdullah, may Allah grant you sabr as I recite these next few lines. They say that we started to go and ride and kick and crunch the body of Imam al-Hussein, and his body was fully covered with arrows. We started to go over his front side, and his backside became completely collapsed. And then they tell Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, then we turned him over, and then we rode over his back so that we would completely crunch and completely collapse the chest of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. One riwayah says there was not really much left of an intact body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It's everywhere now. This is why Imam Zain al-Abidin has to now go and collect. Ala la'natullahi ala al-qawm al-zalimin. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. Brothers and sisters, remember just this one thing. That as we are starting to go back towards normalcy and things are starting to turn back towards normal, it's the exact opposite for the women and children. Their musibah is now starting. They will have to now go to Kufa and then to Sham. Their tragedy is just starting. Some of the poets say that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam had to go before this because he couldn't handle the musibah of Zainab. Ya Zainab, what did you see after Hussein? ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. أعتم الحسين يا حسين.